It is late at night in New York City. The streets have fallen silent, and only the dim blue glow of laboratory lights remains alive. Inside a sterile research facility, a single researcher carefully lifts a small tablet between gloved fingers. It shimmers faintly under the light, dissolving instantly when touched by moisture. An orally disintegrating tablet called MM120. This is no ordinary pill. It is a refined salt-based derivative of LSD, re-engineered by MindMed, a company that dares to do what few have attempted, to manipulate human emotion, anxiety, depression, and fear at the molecular level. It is a pill designed not just to heal the mind, but to reprogram it. MindMed, officially known as Mind Medicine Inc., was founded in 2019 with a single audacious goal: to redefine the treatment of mental illness through precision neuropharmacology. Within just 2 years, by April 2021, it achieved something few biotechnology firms ever do: a successful listing on the Nasdaq. To put that into perspective, most biopharmaceutical companies take between 5 and 15 years to reach that milestone, often after multiple rounds of funding, regulatory setbacks, and years of preclinical data accumulation. MindMed skipped much of that. Then came the moment that shook the industry. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration granted Breakthrough Therapy designation to MM120, a status typically reserved for drugs that demonstrate extraordinary efficacy in human trials. Normally, such recognition follows large-scale phase 2 studies with statistically significant results across hundreds of patients. MindMed, however, obtained it after a limited phase 2 trial involving far fewer participants. How could that happen? Was it the strength of their science or the momentum of a broader cultural shift? At the time, the United States was witnessing a renaissance in psychedelic research. LSD, psilocybin, and DMT were being re-examined as potential treatments for anxiety and PTSD. Regulatory attitudes were softening, and funding for psychedelic medicine was at an all-time high. Perhaps MindMed had simply ridden that wave. Or perhaps it had quietly unlocked something the rest of the field had missed: a reproducible, dose-controlled mechanism for LSD therapy that could finally bring credibility to an outlawed molecule. That is the first mystery. The company's core clinical pipeline centers around 3 simultaneous phase 3 trials, a strategy that is as bold as it is perilous. They are named Voyage, Panorama, and Emerge. 2 target generalized anxiety disorder, while the third focuses on major depressive disorder. All 3 use the same drug, MM120, but with different dosing regimens and distinct statistical models. In the biopharma industry, such a structure is almost unheard of. Traditionally, a company advances one indication to approval, uses that clinical data as proof of efficacy and safety, and only then expands into additional therapeutic areas. MindMed, however, is running all 3 at once. If even one of these trials fails to reach its primary endpoint, it could compromise the credibility of the entire program. Yet, MindMed remains unwaveringly confident. That overconfidence, or perhaps that silence, forms the second mystery. Is the company driven by unseen data, perhaps proprietary biomarkers of neural response patterns that suggest anxiety and depression share a single disrupted feedback circuit? Or is it gambling on a market narrative, constructing belief faster than it can construct evidence? At the heart of MM120's promise lies not the molecule itself, but its formulation technology. MindMed developed it using Catalent's Zydis platform, a fast-dissolving oral delivery system that allows the compound to be absorbed through the oral mucosa, bypassing the gastrointestinal tract. Theoretically, this leads to rapid onset and reduced nausea, 2 long-standing issues in LSD-based therapeutics. Most pharmaceutical companies treat formulation as a supportive technology, a means of convenience, not the core of efficacy. But MindMed goes further, claiming that the formulation itself stabilizes the drug's pharmacokinetics, creating a more consistent and predictable psychoactive response. If true, this would represent a paradigm shift in psychiatric medicine, transforming how the brain's neurochemical variability is managed. But if false, it would expose the company to accusations of scientific overreach. That is the third mystery. By July 2025, MindMed released its quarterly report after market close. Revenue, $0. Net loss, roughly $4.5 million. Yet its balance sheet told a different story. The company held approximately $238 million in cash and short-term investments, Enough, management claimed, to fund operations through 2027. But this statement came with an ominous undertone. All three phase 3 trials were scheduled for final data readouts in 2026. This means the company's runway, its financial lifeline, would expire almost simultaneously with the release of its pivotal results. Most biotechs entering phase 3 secure at least 3 years of liquidity, building a cushion against potential delays, failed endpoints, or unexpected regulatory feedback. MindMed, however, has less than 2 years of breathing room while conducting 3 concurrent trials. This is not normal, it is strategically hazardous, and yet the company has made no announcements regarding new financing or partnerships, no secondary offerings, no licensing deals, no debt instruments. That silence is deafening. Could MindMed already have a confidential strategic alliance with a larger pharmaceutical entity, perhaps contingent on successful early data? Or has it deliberately chosen to operate under opacity, leveraging investor curiosity as a psychological tool? This ambiguity is the fourth mystery, one that investors can neither confirm nor ignore. The design of its trials adds another layer of intrigue. Voyage enrolls 200 patients, testing a 100 microgram dose versus placebo. Panorama includes 300 patients in 3 dosing arms, 50 micrograms, 100 micrograms, and placebo. Emerge studies 140 patients with depression, comparing 100 micrograms to placebo in a 1:1 randomization. To experts, these figures raise red flags. The sample sizes are statistically fragile, the protocols are heterogeneous. Each trial is structured differently, making pooled analysis nearly impossible. In standard pharmaceutical development, phase 3 trials are designed for maximum consistency. Typically over 500 participants per study, uniform endpoints, and global multi-site coordination. MindMed's fragmented design invites both scientific and regulatory uncertainty, and yet the company appears unconcerned. Executives insist they are analyzing patterns rather than points, dynamic response trajectories instead of static outcomes. This is an unorthodox approach, one that views psychiatry as a nonlinear system rather than a simple cause and effect model. But it also carries a devastating risk. Patterns can be interpreted, not proven. A statistical anomaly could easily be mistaken for a therapeutic signal. That is where science blurs into belief. In the end, MindMed's fate rests on 4 fragile pillars: 1 drug, 3 trials, 2 years of time, and a single runway. Every element must align perfectly for the company's vision to hold. If even one collapses, if the data falters, if the funding dries up, if the narrative cracks, the structure could fall apart overnight. And yet, despite this razor-thin balance, the market still calls MindMed a strong buy. Analysts have issued $26 price targets, valuing the company not on what it has achieved, but on what it might someday prove. Such confidence is less about numbers and more about psychology. Believing in a drug that cures anxiety may simply be another way of managing one's own. The story of MindMed is not just a story of science. It is the story of human longing. Our collective desire to conquer the mind's instability and the market's ability to turn that desire into speculation, valuation, and hope. Within a single dissolving tablet lies the convergence of science, faith, greed, and fear, the 4 ingredients that have always driven both medicine and markets forward. ValueStir invites you to share your thoughts in the comments. Which publicly traded, unlisted, or pre-IPO stocks and crypto projects are catching your attention? Your insight could become the focus of our next deep dive analysis. And to everyone who watches, subscribes, likes, comments, and shares our videos, thank you. Your engagement fuels our mission to bring sharper, more illuminating content with every story we tell. This was ValueStir.